unlimited quantity, and we have so infinitesimal. And so just like a drop of water of the ocean has all the qualities of the ocean, but it's very tiny. Similarly, so what is our relationship as part and parcel to the Supreme Spirit whole? This is all being described, and then we talk about God. Then we talk about our relationship with God, that the part and parcel, just like the finger is part and parcel of this body, it cannot enjoy the food stuff no matter how beautiful and how lovely and how delicious it is. It has to feed the stomach through the mouth. Then the finger becomes healthy. This is, of course, only a crude metaphor, but in the same way, we are part and parcel of Krishna. When we give our love to Krishna, then we feel nourished in every way, in our heart, in our mind, in our body, in every way. So this is what is being discussed. So then Abhidheya, what are now we understand, what is my relationship? Then what is the next step? The next step is, how do I pursue or cultivate that relationship? What do I do to cultivate we have this loving propensity. Every living being has a propensity to love. One is loving cat, another is loving dog. I have seen people cry because they have lost their cat or dog. Love is there. A tiger has love for its cub. People have love for their nation. Other people have love for their football team, their favorite sport. Other people have love for their family. But these are illusory objects of love because none of it will endure. So that it's like trying to embrace a shadow. It's like trying to embrace a mirage. Why? Because it won't endure. It's only a fabrication of the material elements, and will return to the material elements, and we can't keep it. Not only we can't keep it, but material nature is dead. It cannot love us back. It cannot give us what our heart hungers for. So therefore, how to cultivate, how to take our loving propensity and transfer it towards the real object of our affection, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the last part is, what is that? Prayojana. Sambandha Abhidheya Prayojana. Prayojana is the description of ecstatic love of God. So Srila Prabhupada says, you do not need a certificate to know if you're advancing or not in Krishna consciousness, just as much as when you've had a nice meal, you know when you're satisfied. You don't need someone to give you a certificate or a plaque or some form that you put on your wall with an official stamp. You know in your heart if you're satisfied. So you know in your heart if you're developing your relationship with Krishna, if we're developing our relationship with Krishna and we're being satisfied in our heart. So then we know like that. Okay, Hare Krishna. I shouldn't talk too long.
That's all right. So, I mean, I'd like to raise a point here. I was talking to some devotees the other day, and they asked me a very good question. They said, Ronald, when are you going to take initiation from Srila Prabhupada? I'm like, what do you mean by this? Initiation means what? So I was just thinking about this point, that when you're satisfied with the understanding and realization that is coming ultimately from Krishna, where the process of surrender to Srila Prabhupada, you don't feel that, someone is telling you to do something, but you're already connected. So what's the reason why, these people are forcing others to do these things? I think that is one of the problems I've noticed, at least among the so-called Prabhupada senior men. The
Haribo,
rich big.
yeah,
So what,
it's
I
the
was
truth.
the one who
Oh.
asked that question.
Very much truth, Prabhu. So in India specifically these days, Ritvik initiations are going on bang on target, right? I mean, it's going on in a very large scale, and it's going like, I mean, you can't stop it. So I mean, they're saying that the last letter which Prabhupada wrote was great, and Escon Bangalore is saying that. So, yeah, but I agree with Ishan Prabhu's lecture, and just a simple word which he told, that Prabhupada himself told that the chanting which you do, the quality chanting which you do, if you can get that essence, that you're getting that into Krishna consciousness, right? So that essence is very important. I mean, no one can, no guru can tell you. Only your self heart, your heart inside. If it's not pure, it will tell you it's not pure. You need to work on, right? So that heart matters, right? What your heart is saying, rather than just talking to people, asking gurus and everything. That will that will waste your time. Yeah, and the
Ishan
more
Prabhu, like Ishan Prabhu says, it's a heart-to-heart relationship
Hari
with
bol,
the
yeah.
spiritual master.
I just read yesterday. Prabhupada wrote it. Yeah, if you feel it inside, then you're great. Otherwise, you just don't go to gurus and ask them, right? They can't say anything, right? Because
Yes.
they are not on that level. Yeah. Very well.
Yes, Vinayak Prabhu, you wanted to share some realization, Vinayak? Okay, 1 second. Let me unmute you. Ask to unmute. No. Okay.
No, Prabhu, like yeah, I was saying that I was the one who asked you that question, that when you are going to take initiation.
Oh, it was not you I was referring to. I was referring to someone else. So,
Okay, so yeah, I asked previously, maybe 2-3 months before or something.
okay. Yes, Ishan Prabhu, would you like to comment, or Rupa Manjari?
Rupa,
Yes.
Any comments, Rupa Manjari? To the
Not right
verse?
now.
Okay, that's fine.
So, bro, I want
Okay.
to discuss on this
Yes.
matter if you can.
Yes,
If you
Ishan
can.
Prabhu.
Yeah. Sorry, bro. Sorry. Yeah.
that's okay. No, it's good. It's good that you're speaking. Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada says, is a science.
Yes.
Hey, bro.
Science
Yeah.
means when we went to school, they taught me scientific method. Scientific method is 3 parts: hypothesis, procedure, and conclusion. Hypothesis, what is the philosophy? Procedure, you test the philosophy by doing an experiment, and then you make conclusions. So part of the science is that of Krishna consciousness, most important part of the science, Acharya Avan Parusho Veda.
Yes.
The Acharya is the sum and substance of the Veda. Of course, this Acharya is pointed out again and again and again that the spiritual master must be completely a Mahabhagavata, topmost devotee who has a personal relationship with Krishna,
Hey, bro.
ongoing, and that he's never been without that. All of the acharyas in the disciplic succession of the Brahma Gaudiya Sampradaya, they're Nitya Siddha, they're eternally realized souls. They're never under the influence of the material energy, and they have a personal relationship with Krishna. Now, is that this whole idea, because Ramchandra Prabhu is raising this question, and other Bhakta is speaking about The point is that the only way to approach Krishna is through Krishna's pure devotee. The only way to Tadvidi pranipatena paraprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshanaha. Tattvadarshanaha, tattva is truth. He has had the darshan of the supreme absolute truth. This is the person you have to approach for spiritual master. Anyone else taking the position of spiritual master is this is fraudulent. It may not be in the government's law that he will be condemned, but in Krishna's law he will be condemned. Because he's taking a position that he has no qualification for. He cannot give you a personal relationship with Krishna. Anyone who chants Hare Krishna is going to feel some degree of alleviation of anxiety, alleviation of stress, happiness in the heart, but to actually have a living face-to-face realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and to understand what is my identity, what is my spiritual nature, what is my spiritual form, and what is that relationship with Krishna that can only be given to us by Krishna's pure representative. So one needs to have that relationship. So what is that relationship with this? Is it a ceremony? Does the ceremony give someone a relationship? The ceremony is important for the disciple because he takes certain vows and he makes certain promises. But the essence, Srila Prabhupada explains, what is the meaning of initiation? In the 10th canto purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that initiation means the beginning of a heart-to-heart relationship with Krishna's representative. And he says that, he explains how this works. Because Krishna came to this planet 5,000 years ago, but he was present in the heart of Vasudeva. Now, Krishna took birth from the womb of Devaki. But Srila Prabhupada, but he was not injected into the womb like a human being makes a woman pregnant. No, Krishna was in the heart of Vasudeva, and he was transferred to the heart of Devaki. And Srila Prabhupada says, this is Diksha. It's written in the book. This is initiation, that someone who has Krishna in the heart, a pure devotee, a Mahabhagavata pure devotee, he can inject Krishna into our heart. So we have to have, Srila Prabhupada says, and Diksha means initiation. Initiate means to begin. Not that it's a done deal. Now I have Guru. Now I can forget everything. Now I have a Guru. No, it's the beginning of a heart-to-heart relationship with Krishna's pure devotee, so that from his heart, Krishna comes into our heart. So we have to, just like in Bhagavad Gita 4:24, Tadvidi pranipatena. In the purport, it's very beautiful purport. Srila Prabhupada said that the formula is inquiry of the relationship with the Guru. Inquiry, on the part of the submission and service. So he says, Srila Prabhupada says in that purport, never mind all these foolish questions. What is the real question? How can I develop this love for Krishna? So Srila Prabhupada writes that when the disciple is submissive and ready to render service according to what he's learning from spiritual master, then what is the word? The reciprocation of questions and revelation, questions and knowledge. So it becomes perfect. He says, when the spiritual master is satisfied, satisfied, it's written in 434 purport. When the spiritual master is satisfied, he blesses the disciple with all knowledge. Okay? So it's not a question of like, now I have a new toaster or a new blender and I have a user's manual and I follow the instructions. It's a very personal relationship. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada uses the word, what is that word? That it's a, okay, it escapes me at the moment. An apprenticeship program. Srila Prabhupada said that you're working under the guidance. As Srila Prabhupada said, there's two kinds of instruction. Is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says there's objective instruction and subjective instruction. Subjective means feeling. So objective instruction means conceptual instruction. All the definitions, what is our relationship with Krishna, the Bhagavad Gita, is all these things are there. But what is that subjective? He says the subjective instruction comes from the pure devotee who is absorbed in feelings of love for Krishna. So subjective instruction, and we're going to read about this process in verse 25, 4 or 5 verses beyond this verse. And you will see in the purport where Srila Prabhupada says that pure devotion is infectious in a good sense, just like an infectious disease. That's the first line in that purport. He said, you catch it from someone who has it. If they don't have it, you can't catch it from them. And then he says, what does it mean, this infection from a pure? He said, infection of pure devotion means to imbibe the taste of devotion. Is in the middle. Or to drink in the taste of what is this love for. That is how intimate. That is how okay. So when we have this relationship, intimate relationship with the spiritual master, it's not based on the ceremony. It's based on how much we are open our heart. And just like in Krishna Das Kaviraj, he's a totally self-realized soul. He's writing Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita every chapter. He says, praying at the lotus feet of Rupa and Raghunath Goswami, always desiring their mercy. This is our relationship with such a spiritual master. Praying at the lotus feet, always begging for his mercy. So then when the attitude is open enough like that, we begin to understand his heart. Then one can imbibe the taste of what? Of of his devotion. Therefore, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in his poetry in our songbook, I offer you all respect, for thus I may be able to understand you correctly. Then by chanting the holy name in great ecstasy, all my offenses will cease. He's saying that when our attitude towards such a self-realized soul is appropriate, we'll be able to understand his heart. And that will be the basis of our sadhana. How am I chanting? How am I chanting Hare Krishna? I'm chanting under his guidance, under his direction. He's teaching me the flavor of what is love for Krishna, to the degree that I can absorb it. And then he says, so when the student is submissive to that's what submissive means. And ready to render service means he giving it to us, we're giving it back to him. He's saying, you approach Krishna like this, Hare Krishna, and you do it, you try to feel what is his heart and put it into your chanting, but it's for his pleasure. And when he says, and when he's satisfied, then he blesses us with more knowledge, with more realization. So it's not that he has given me the mantra, now I don't need him anymore. No, every Hare Krishna, every word in the mantra is done learning from him what is the devotional feeling and trying to do that devotional feeling for his pleasure. Both learning, imbibing the taste from him and doing the service with that taste for his pleasure. This is an apprenticeship program. I've been an apprentice. You work under a master, and the more you have heartfelt feelings of appreciation for him, the more he shares his knowledge with you. And when you work, you're not working independently, you're working, looking to see, is it nice? Are you pleased with me for doing it this way, in this manner? And when he's pleased, he tells you more, next step. So this is an apprenticeship program, and this is the relationship with the spiritual master. And this is what will eventually, if we can cultivate nicely, it will open the doors to Krishna Loka. Because they do not understand what is the relationship with the guru, they take everybody and anybody, cat and dog, as their guru. No, this is true.
Exactly.
But the essence is the essence, because they don't understand this is the science of Krishna consciousness. This is how it works. This is the whole. You read why is Chaitanya Bhagavad Gita is the first level, Srimad Bhagavatam next, Chaitanya Charitamrita is postgraduate. Why? Because it describes this process in detail. It describes how Lord Chaitanya taught love of God. Namo Maha Vadanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaurata Namaha. He's more magnanimous than any other avatar because he's freely giving love of Krishna. Well, what does that mean? How come we don't have it? He's freely giving love of Krishna. It means you read Chaitanya Charitamrita and you see how Lord Chaitanya, he did kirtan in public. And he says that he was overwhelmed with feelings of ecstatic love of God. And whoever, the common people, the policemen, the pujaris, everybody who was exposed to his, they became infected with his feelings. And Srila Prabhupada said, this is, and they began to chant with the same feeling. That's how Lord Chaitanya distributed love of God. So Srila Prabhupada writes, but that was 500 years ago. How can we have that? How can we have that relationship, that darshan of Lord Chaitanya today? Srila Prabhupada says one can have that relationship through the disciplic succession. That same love of God that Lord Chaitanya is distributing freely is coming to us through the disciplic succession. One has to, but he's not always showing. Srila Prabhupada writes, the pure devotee is not, he's always feeling ecstatic symptoms within his heart, but he's not making a public display. He's very shy to make a public display, but he cannot hide himself from one who approaches him with the right attitude, with love and submission, begging for his mercy, always trying to please him, trying to cultivate a personal relationship with him. He will reveal himself. He's love of God personified. Then as we begin to understand and have a taste of his devotion, of his enthusiasm, of his ecstasy in Krishna consciousness, of his happiness, of his love for all living beings, of his desire that everybody should have this wonderful gift. Please take. We begin to taste his demeanor in our heart. We become, and that becomes the basis of our sadhana, of our everything. Begins with sadhana, but it goes into every, when that relationship is strong, he's always our guide. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada always working in the association of the pure devotee, under the guidance of the pure devotee. Everything, our whole life. Never alone. So that relationship is there for anyone and everyone. He will not refuse someone who comes to him with open heart. There's no harm. Yes, it's true, Srila Prabhupada stressed very strongly that initiation is required. But at the same time, as far as I can understand, is because at that time the disciple starts to take his basic vows: no illicit sex, no intoxication, no meat eating, no gambling, and promises to do sadhana 16 rounds, and promises to get up every morning 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and become clean inside, become clean outside, and engage in a nice way. These promises are necessary for us, and because we need that. So, but there's so many. Srila Prabhupada had thousands of disciples, and I know of many that have left because they have no taste, but they don't know where to get taste. So, and they were initiated. So, but actually they were never initiated, because initiation means the beginning of that heart-to-heart relationship, which they never had. They had the ceremony, but they didn't have that. And therefore they could not get the taste. So it's not expected that everyone and anyone will go to the, but this is the science of Krishna consciousness. This is my understanding. Hare Krishna.
Try. Yes, I'd just like to point some things out here that Ishan Prabhu was saying here. Share the screen here. 1 second. Yeah, you were talking about subjective and objective understanding. This is from, where is this from? This is from Chaitanya Chaitamrita. Thus, the instructions in the science of devotion are differentiated in the terms of the objective and subjective ways of understanding. The Acharya, in the true sense of the term, who is authorized to deliver Krishna, enriches the disciple with full spiritual knowledge and thus awakens him to the activities of devotional service.
Yeah, but read before that 2 sentences.
Okay.
There are 2 kinds. There are 2 kinds.
Yes. There are 2
Where's
kinds
that?
of instructing. What is it? There are 2 kinds of instructing spiritual masters. One is the liberated person fully absorbed in meditation in devotional service, and the other is he who invokes the disciple's spiritual consciousness by means of relevant instructions.
Okay. May I jump in?
Yes, Ishan Prabhu, yes.
Oh,
Put that
yeah.
back on the screen. Put that back on the screen. One instruction comes from the pure devotee who is in meditation of love of God, and from him, that's the kind of one is the liberated person, that's the pure devotee, fully absorbed in meditation in devotional service. That is the one you get the subjective instruction from the one who's fully absorbed, and he's subjective. If you look up that word in dictionary, it means personal feeling, not concept. Not concept. It means personal feeling. And that you can, what is that feeling? It's the feeling of love for Krishna. And where are you going to get it? You can only get it from the liberated person who's fully absorbed in meditation, in devotion. And from him, you can have subjective instruction. This is what we're talking about. This is the science of Krishna consciousness. This is what it means to have a spiritual master. Otherwise, the whole thing is Srila Prabhupada. It's not a what is that word? When people something, a fad. We have a spiritual master. Let's have a spiritual master. You can put his picture in my wallet and sit on it. So what is that? It doesn't, to have a spiritual master means this is again, this heart-to-heart relationship by which one gets this subjective instruction. And this is the way. Now, it's very good that I'm chanting 16 rounds. It's very good that we're keeping the 4 regulative principles. It's very good, everything is positive. It's purifying. It's elevating us to the mode of goodness, and it's alleviating us of anxiety as much as we're fixed in the process. It's all very good to bring us to the point where we begin to have this relationship with the pure devotee. It says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita as well, that if one does everything perfect, he can go to Vaikuntha. But to go to Krishna Loka is another story. Then one has to be in touch with somebody who has that, can give us that kind of, that is Krishna's representative. Golokera Premadana Harinama Sankirtana. These are songs of our acharyas, that this is coming from Krishna Loka. And Lord Chaitanya said, there's a monologue in the Chaitanya Charitamrita where Krishna is thinking out loud. He says, there's so many different avatars, incarnations. None of them are giving out the love that exists in Krishna Loka. The whole world, he says, they worship me with awe and veneration. But I find it, I'll put it in my own words, he says, I find it kind of boring. It's not the same as the way people, individuals relate to me in Krishna love. So no other avatar. There have been hundreds there explained in Brahma Samhita that the avatars are without limit, without number. We know of, Das avatar. We know of the principal ones, but none of them are giving these. Therefore, I shall descend and take the role of a devotee, and I'll distribute these things. This we can only have through our disciplic succession. And this disciplic succession from Lord Chaitanya is the only that can distribute like that. Namo Mahabhadana Krishna Prema Pradayate. Giving freely. Srila Prabhupada says on one recording, he says, when Krishna came and spoke Bhagavad Gita, he said, you surrender to me, give me your heart. But he didn't give it himself so easily. But Lord Chaitanya, he said, take this love of Krishna. How is he giving it? We have to absorb it from someone who carries it. We worship him because he's love for Krishna personified. Like that. So you won't hear this because they've never even read it. If they've read it, no, I'm telling you, they don't read the books. And
Exactly.
if they read it,
Very
they haven't
more.
understood. I was in a room with Srila Prabhupada, and somebody asked him about atonement, and he raised his voice and he said, the atonement means read my books, read my books.
Yes.
They don't understand. So the fact that they can take the position, anyone can try to take the position of guru, means they've never understood the science of Krishna consciousness. They can't give what they don't have. They're thinking there's two kinds of instruction, Srila Prabhupada says, objective and subjective. They're giving objective.
Yeah.
They can repeat the philosophy the way Srila Prabhupada has said it, but subjective instruction they cannot give. Therefore, they cannot give Diksha, that heart-to-heart relationship whereby people can begin to cultivate love for Krishna.
I have a
So
question too. Yeah.
this may be very disturbing for some people to hear these things, and it may be absolutely brand new for 99.9% of people have never even considered what we're talking about. But a serious person will be able to understand. A serious person will be able to understand. Just like everyone here is attracted to holding Bhagavad Gita in their hand and reading. Srila Prabhupada writes in one purport in Bhagavatam that anyone who's attracted to these books, how they have become attracted? Have they made a decision to become? He said, no. Krishna within their heart knows that this spirit soul is ready to hear, and I will give him the ability to be attracted to what's written in this book. In other words, if we're attracted to reading Bhagavad Gita or any of these literatures, Krishna has given us that ability. And just like sometimes people are having a wedding or a birthday party or any event, and they send out an invitation, RSVP, please respond to this invitation. Please come and let us know if you're coming. Anyone who's holding a Bhagavad Gita in their hand or Srimad Bhagavatam, it's Krishna's personal invitation to come to Krishna Loka.
Yeah.
It is. Otherwise, we couldn't be attracted to it. He's given us the ability to be attracted. Therefore, it's his personal invitation. We should know that Krishna is watching us, and he's giving us the ability to be attracted and to want to know. Therefore, we study the books, we read these things, we become convinced that this is how we do. We approach through our spirit, through our bona fide, this is bona fide, real spiritual master. Krishna's pure devotee.
Right.
That Krishna has sent him here so that he is our personal, there's an expression in today's society, contemporary society, personal trainer. People get a personal trainer, right? You pay somebody big money, maybe $100, $200 an hour. They're your personal trainer. They're going to train you in whatever, how to make money, how to have business, how to be whatever. Srila Prabhupada is our personal trainer. Krishna, you want to approach me, I give you a connection with someone. He's going to train you in how to become a devotee. And all of your sadhana is done under his guidance, under his direction. And that way, you'll become a devotee.
Jai, Ishan Prabhu.
Trainer. Yeah.
Yes, we had some questions from our devotees here. First, it was Ulises Prabhu. Bhakta Ulises is in Mexico. He has a farm in Mexico. Him and his good wife, they are trying to practice Varnashram. Yes, Ulises Prabhu. Is that the same Ulises I know?
Yes, Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. It's very nice to hear this wonderful association. Thank you for your mercy, Ishan Prabhu, and also Ronald for organizing.
Hare Krishna.
I've been doing a lot of research regarding the movement, how it developed. I recently posted a video about Prabhupada giving some instructions to Gaur Govinda Maharaj. And there's a topic that's intriguing to me, and that is what you were talking about, the experience of being in the presence of a living bona fide guru. So there's a quote from Prabhupada that stresses the importance of hearing from the lips of the living guru. And so I want to ask you, what is the difference? Like, for example, if you would hear Prabhupada physically in a room, a lecture, and then you would listen to that same lecture in a tape. What in your opinion, what is the difference that
There's
is
no
there?
difference. There's no difference. I know that, I'm not sure. This Gaur Govinda, he was raised in India and recognized by Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada gave him sannyas, and the other sannyasis were objecting. He just joined, and Srila Prabhupada said, he has been a devotee since his birth. So, I think this is the man who writes in one of his books that it's not the same to listen to the tape as to hear from the pure, but that's his business. That's his idea. That is not Srila Prabhupada's idea.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada's tapes are Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada's picture is Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada's prasadam, that is, if we offer through the disciplic succession, through our Srila Prabhupada, to Lord Chaitanya, to Krishna, and then it comes down. Lord Chaitanya is ecstatic to receive the prasadam coming from the lips of Radha and Krishna, and then Srila Prabhupada is receiving through the disciplic succession, and then he says, "Now eat." This idea that he has to be living, that is what ISKCON is saying.
Thank you, Prabhu. Let me post a quote. Sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to post a quote from a lecture Prabhupada gave on Srimad Bhagavatam that directly addresses this point. And he mentions about the living guru, and that a gramophone will not help. So this is very intriguing to me that Prabhupada would say that.
Can you read the whole quote, Ulises Prabhu?
It's in the chat, or should I share my screen? It's in the chat. I'll read the whole quote in the chat. Unless one is Svanu Bhavam, self-realized, life is Bhagavat. He cannot preach Bhagavat. That will not be effective. A gramophone will not help. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's secretary, Swarupa Damodar, recommended Bhagavat Pura Giya Bhagavat Stani, that if you want to read Srimad Bhagavatam, you must approach a person who is living Bhagavat. Bhagavat Pura Giya Bhagavat Stani. Otherwise, there is no question of Bhagavat realization. Lecture on Srimad Bhagavatam, 1.3, May 27th, 1974, Rome.
I understand what you're saying. What can I can't counter it. I can't counter it.
Well, you have experience of both, so that's what I'm.
But we have it from both.
Meetings.
We have it from both sides. You know, we have it from both sides. But the thing you're saying, it has a context, and sometimes people take things out of context, and there must be some reason that Srila Prabhupada is writing like that, because the person who he's giving this instruction to in that pastime, Lord Chaitanya is directing that person to take instruction from Ramananda Roy, if I'm not mistaken. And because he was puffed up and he thinks he knows. But I heard what you said, gramophone.
Yeah.
But I can't argue with it. All I can say is that we have a living relationship with our spiritual master. He is living. He's never dying. He's a transcendental personality, and you know, there are people in our disciplic succession who are worshiping others in our disciplic succession who they have never met. I know that as a fact. I have to find which names, which ones, but I know this because I've read about it, and they worship them, and they. I respect where you're coming from. I respect what you're saying, and you're reading the words of Srila Prabhupada. But I cannot. So where will we find this person? There are some 80 or 100 different ISKCON gurus, for instance. Do you think one of them is on this platform? That he's Mahabhagavata. Srila Prabhupada writes in another letter that all of the people in our disciplic succession are Nitya Siddha who are coming from the spiritual world, and almost all of them are manjaris. But sometimes some of them are cowherd boys in Krishna Loka. So we have to find someone like that. But
Yes.
that, but as far as what you're saying, I would have to, you know, if you give me the number of the text and everything, I'll look. And I know that, but as far as I can understand, Srila Prabhupada is present in his books.
Yes.
There's no difference. And Srila Prabhupada is present on his tape. And Srila Prabhupada is present in his picture. He says that repeatedly. And somebody may say that, but for me, this is my whole life. If you take that away, I have no more life. that my relationship with my spiritual master is my life. I don't do it very well. I'm always distracted and very often forgetful. But I come back to that again and again, because that's all I have to hold on to, and it's real for me. So, but I believe that it's that I'm not making something up, but it's in the scripture. It's in our teachings. It's in our philosophy that we have this relationship with a pure devotee. And if Srila Prabhupada, in his will, he said that he will be the guru for the next 10,000 years at the same time. And he said that new members, he said he wants new members can be added to the GBC, Srila Prabhupada writes in his will. That you can appoint new members to the GBC, but all of them only ones, they need one qualification, that they are my disciples. Now, this is for 10,000 years. So he's saying that he's the spiritual master for the next 10,000 years. So somebody... So I don't know, it does not reconcile perfectly with what the point you're raising, and I have to acknowledge that. But that's a singular statement. Because the person was trying to understand Srimad Bhagavatam on his own. But and Lord Chaitanya sent that man, that scholar, to Srila Ramananda Roy to hear from him. But we can hear through the books that Srila Prabhupada left us. But more I can't say. It's a very tough question. I'll think about it, and if you give me the source of that quote, I'd like to write it down and study and look it up.
Yeah, here it is on the screen, Ishan Prabhu. If you can see the screen here, this is a lecture. Here it is. It's from 1974, Srimad Bhagavatam 123, May 27th, 1974. It's right here. I'll send it to you via email.
Oh, not a professional Bhagavad reciter. Not a professional. Vyasadeva. So what Shukadev Swami did, he first of all heard from his father, Vyasadeva, Srimad Bhagavatam, and realized that not a professional Bhagavad reciter. I think that's very important, because and just like in India now, there's a class of men, especially in Vrindavan, the Goswamis, Srila Prabhupada is calling them the Goswamis, they make a business. They're charging people to come and hear from them. Therefore, there are many, many very artistic Bhagavad reciters, but they could not turn even one man to become a devotee to Krishna consciousness, because they're not self-realized. That's what we're saying. Svanubhavam. Of course, we have tried our best. So in a few years, there are so many Krishna conscious persons come out. And that is the secret. Unless one is Svanubhavan, self-realized, life is Bhagavata. He cannot preach Bhagavat. That is not. So the major point, Srila, that will not be effective. In other words, when a gramophone, something that is repeating what is recorded. The professional Bhagavad reciter is repeating what is reported like a gramophone, but he has no content. That's what that means.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I read that. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommended, if you want to read Srimad Bhagavatam, you must approach a person who is life living Bhagavata. That is Srila Prabhupada.
Right.
Not that, it doesn't mean that he's alive or dead. It means he must be someone who's realized. Otherwise, he's as useless as a machine called a gramophone who's repeating the words of Bhagavata.
Mm.
That's my understanding. I don't know if that touches you the same way it touches me, but that is what I understand.
Haribol. Thank you, Prabhu.
Sukadev, and he realized that Vyasadeva, Sukadev Goswami learned from his father Vyasadeva Mahabhagavata, and he realized it because he got it from someone who had it. Svanubhavan. What is this book? Akila means, there are many scriptures. Okay, so it is learned by hearing, not by reading. So you got to hear from somebody. You can understand Vedic principle, even though you are illiterate. If you can get in touch with a real, so Srila Prabhupada, we should not think that he's dead, because we have a living relationship with him. We have a living relationship with him. He is our life. So we hang to that, and we have to realize that he is alive in our heart. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada said, he doesn't want blind followers.
Mm.
Easy come, easy go. He wants you to have that heart-to-heart connection so that you will have that taste, and then you'll never let go. I have one of my most close friends, no longer, and he was the vice president of one temple, and he left Krishna. He said, it doesn't work for me. But he never opened his heart.
Mm. Mm.
It's not become a member, do everything. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada says again and again and again, wearing tilak, having neck beads, devotee kirtan. It's all helpful. It's helpful. It's helpful. But the essence of Krishna consciousness is to have a living relationship with the self-realized soul, and get from him the taste and cultivate under his guidance, birth after birth. The lotus feet of our spiritual master is the only way by which we can obtain this pure devotion. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, we can cross over this ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna.
Right.
And from him, Krishna Prem emanates. From him, Krishna Prem, love of God, emanates like light emanates from the sunshine. It just, and if we can absorb it, by him, our ignorance is destroyed. He is my Lord, birth after birth. Hey.
Right. Ulises Prabhu, how is there anything else you'd like to discuss? Or
Well, there's basically, if you look on the database for words like gramophone and dictaphone, these are all similar quotes that say, appears that I'm speaking personally, but I'm not, and I'm not there, things like that. I just posted in the chat. And so my research is coming from the recent finding that I had, and maybe it's known by many, but not for me, that Gorgobinder revealed in a lecture he gave some years ago that Prabhupada ordered him directly to initiate disciples, and he was pretty much giving him the authority of Diksha Guru. And he reveals why there was no letter or tape of that, which was very amazing to me. And so the first thing devotees say is that, oh, Gorgovinda is cheating because he says you have to, you can't read Prabhupada's books. You have to listen from the living devotee. And so they say, therefore, Gorgovinda is disqualified. So then I proceeded to do the due diligence, which is to see, I only hear from the Ritvik side, so I wanted to hear from the disciples of Gorgovinda. So they bring up all these quotes about dictaphone, gramophone, and they're very, very clearly, Prabhupada is saying, I'm not there. It appears like I'm there, but I'm not there. And so Gorgovinda explains, and his disciples, they explain that you can certainly benefit from reading the books. Of course, all the Acharya's books are there, but factual, spiritual, sound vibration has several layers of depth, and it's not just the tape recorder only captures one of those layers, but there's subtle layers of sound that are not captured in a tape recorder. And those subtle layers of pure sound vibration, according to them, are only experienced when you're hearing from the lips of the pure devotee in a direct personal relationship. And they back it up with quotes from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam, which is amazing to me because they're proving the point. So because I don't have direct experience.
No, everything you're saying in a very, very nice way. You're speaking in a very kind and patient and humble way. And I really want to acknowledge that. At the same time, Srila Prabhupada had like more than 5,000, 6,000, 8,000 disciples. Most of them never met him. And they can never hear from him. What does it mean? Does it mean that they can't advance in Krishna consciousness? It's just a question, most of them, but he gave them what he gave them, but it doesn't mean that only those few who a small percentage that heard from him personally. It's another question. I understand your point, and I would like to examine all those, but when I read this one, it sounds like Srila Prabhupada is saying that that's something that's simply plain from reading the book. So he read the book and he's giving the teaching. He's like a gramophone. but he has no realization. That seems to be what that passage was saying, that it's useless in that sense. I can, but I didn't see all these other quotes you're talking about. And so where do we go?
Yes,
Where does
you see, you are very fortunate because you have direct association of a pure devotee. For me, I don't have that fortune. Therefore, I cannot compare the difference between hearing from an ordinary person, from a medium devotee, from an advanced devotee. I have no point of reference. So therefore, because you have the experience, that's my belief that it's easier to extract the proper conclusion. So like if you were in today's technology, you could be in a room where Prabhupada is giving a lecture, and you can be at a room next door that is broadcasting through the internet. Would you rather be living in the living room, or you would say is the same? For example,
one thing, different things come to mind when you're speaking. One point is that I've had some association, for lack of better words, being in the same room as Srila Prabhupada or what have you, in the physical sense. But all of those, those 11 or 12 rascals who claimed to be guru after Srila Prabhupada, they were with him day after day after day, and they never had this realization of him. They immediately tried to replace him and take him off the Vyasasan and put themselves there. So another point that comes to, in other words, the real relationship didn't come because they had spent more physical time with him. That didn't do them any good. The other thing, all they could turn them, they became the biggest offenders in the movement of the pure devotee. The next thing is that, yes, I've had some experience like that, to be with Srila Prabhupada. For some reason or other, Krishna made that arrangement.
Jai.
But I tell you the truth, it's only in the last few years that I have gone deeper into trying to develop a living relationship with Srila Prabhupada, as opposed to being obedient and following his prescription, his instructions. There's a difference between being obedient and having a living relationship in your heart that you feel is a real thing. Now, but so it took me, now I've been practicing in my own way for some 50 years. 1968, I met Srila Prabhupada. But I might tell you the truth. Somebody can read Bhagavad Gita today. I never heard of it before. And in 1 week, he can be closer to Srila Prabhupada than I am today. It's not a question of whether you sat in the same room or not. He's a transcendental personality. That means time and space have no bearing, physical time and physical space, that he is eternally Krishna's. You can relate to him, Srila Prabhupada writes, just as to relate to the Acharya, just as you would relate to God himself. That he has we read one shloka previously in this 5th chapter that we're studying in Bhagavatam. Your goodness you're as good as the all-pervasive super soul and can enter into the heart of anyone. And that, regardless of A person, anyone who wants ardently to cultivate a living relationship with Srila Prabhupada can feel his presence
Right.
in their life. This is my conviction. That because, and this is what I, in spite of the fact that I'm not steady, that I'm not stable, that I'm distracted, that I become fruitive, that I become attached to the outcome of my activity, that I become disturbed over issues like success and failure, victory and defeat, gain and loss, that I'm subject to these things. But I know, and then I become very disturbed. Then that tells me, oh, why? Why am I disturbed? Because I come, because I've let go of my relationship with, because of millions of births, habitual trying to be the enjoyer, trying to be the controller, trying to be the proprietor is so deep. So but then I have something to come back to. And immediately I can feel his presence. And that's why I say anyone can have that. There's no senior devotees. There's no such thing as senior devotee. You've been here longer, it means you're closer to the grave. That's all it means. Older, ready to die faster. That's all it means. There's no young, old. A person can. Dhruva Maharaj was a child, 5 years old, and Prahlad Maharaj was a child, but Dhruva Maharaj in 6 months he had personal darshan of four-handed Narayan. Anyone can have a relationship with Srila Prabhupada. There's no one's in a more privileged position. That is complete nonsense. That's against our teachings. Any one of us. All we need, and even in Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Pradipur, Krishna says, he promises, anyone who worships me with love, I'll give him the intelligence by which he can come to me. And in the purport says, Srila Prabhupada says, even if a devotee doesn't, a bhakta, he doesn't understand all the scripture and everything, but if he's sincere, if you really, Krishna will give him the knowledge from within his heart how to come closer to him. Which means that and there's this is a transcendental relationship. And we have that same possibility of transcendental relationship with Srila Prabhupada. I base my life on that. But if someone wants to say it can't be, then it can't be for that person. But it is for me. It's my faith and my only hope. And I believe it's backed up by Shastra. And I don't think I'm in a more privileged position than anyone else. That anyone can have that, depending how much they want. And there are different ways and things that a person can do. They have to raise themselves to the mode of goodness. The mode of passion, I mean, everything becomes self-centered and there's no capacity for love. One has to come at least to the mode of goodness to enter into a living relationship with Srila Prabhupada. Everything else has to be put on the back burner. What's most important is we want to feel his presence. He's the external manifestation of the Lord in the heart. It's super soul realization. It's not different from having a personal relationship with Srila Prabhupada. He's the external we can't feel the Lord in the heart. So he comes before us as a spiritual master. He gives us his murti. He puts it in every temple and says, now you do this Guru Puja. And he and there's one article, it's the one big spiritual Swami from another sampradaya from South India came to Srila Prabhupada. And he said, you know, they're putting your murti in all these temples. And it's explained in scripture that if they worship your murti in all these temples, that you will receive all the sinful reaction. By doing that, and Srila Prabhupada said, yes, I know that. That's why I put the murti there. To receive, to help them purify themselves, everybody. So what I'm trying to say is that this is a transcendental relationship beyond time and space and all these considerations. Otherwise, I hear what you're saying, and I offer you my respectful obeisances. But from everything I understand from scripture, everyone and anyone can have a personal relationship with Srila Prabhupada today. That's my understanding. And that's my experience, my little experience. That's all I have to hold on to in this world.
Right.
Haribo.
Okay, so we're about at 8:30. I think we're pretty much set up for the night for today. We'll have another meeting, unless Ulises has any more questions, Prabhu.
Oh, I have unlimited.
Okay. Okay.
No, another next session, I guess.
Yes.
Otherwise,
yes. We'll have another session on Sunday next week, and we'll be reading Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.21. Yes, Ishan Prabhu.
I just want to say that, is it Ulises? Is that how we pronounce?
Hare Krishna. Yes.
Prabhu, I really feel, I don't know quite how to express, but I feel that you're a very sincere and very nice person and very nice devotee, and I hope I haven't said anything that is made you uncomfortable or anything like that. I'm very happy to hear you speak in a very beautiful way, and
thank you. I'm just a rascal.
offer you my. I just feel to offer you my humble obeisances. Hare Krishna.
Oh no! Please accept my obeisances. I don't deserve that. You're way more fortunate than I am. You might not consider a very fortunate position to have direct Prabhupada association, or it is true that everyone can approach Prabhupada, but I think you're very fortunate, very, very fortunate to even be in his direct association. I don't have such mercy. So I accept your humbleness, but you're very fortunate.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
You know, when you open your heart to Srila Prabhupada, you can feel his presence. You can feel his love. And that is not based on whether you were with him in the same room or not. Just like Krishna, like Srila Prabhupada did. Krishna's in the deity on the altar. And Srila Prabhupada says again and again, if you think it's stone, he'll remain stone. But this Krishna can talk to you.
Mm.
So So Srila Prabhupada says these things, So it's the same thing as Srila Prabhupada in the picture. No different from Srila Prabhupada when he's walking on the not only that, it's dangerous, he writes, for somebody to come close to a pure devotee. For us neophytes, it's dangerous for a neophyte to come close to a Mahabhagavata.
Yes.
Because they don't see him in terms of his devotion, of what's in his heart. They're not capable, and they see him in terms of his external appearance, So it's not even good for the average neophyte to come close to someone like Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada writes, I've said it before, there are eightfold mystic powers. And Srila Prabhupada writes, I have it on my computer, that there are, they can become as big as a mountain, their body, take any form they want. They can become so small, they can move between the molecules in the wall and walk through the wall. They can bring things from different places. They can appear anywhere they want. They don't have to take an airplane. This is the mystic eightfold mystic powers. And Srila Prabhupada writes that these eightfold mystic powers are insignificant compared to the power of a pure devotee. But he acts like he's one of us. So to limit him, that they have to be in the same room in order to receive. Look, Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita, huh? But you can't hear it, and I can't hear it. But we can. But Bhagavad Gita is put in our hand. Does that mean that I can't get the benefit from Bhagavad Gita because I'm not hearing from Krishna directly? Does that make sense?
2 questions to ask.
Someone else wants to speak.
Yes, Mohit Prabhu has some questions. Go ahead, Mohit Prabhu. Or
So, adding to Bhakta Vilas's question. right?
Ulysses, Bhakta Ulysses, yes.
Ulysses, yes.
Yes.
So, Prabhupada has said that openly that, having initiations, having fire initiations are very important in a devotee's life. So, Prabhu, Diksha is important. So, how do we go forward with it? As the Ritvik word is being used various times, and Ritvik word which Prabhupada never wanted, right? Which Narayan Prabhu has told us several times. So how do we go forward with it?
Let's, Narayan Prabhu said that the word Srila Prabhupada used was officiating Acharya, and Tamal Krishna says, is that Ritvik? So Narayan Prabhu's contention is that Srila Prabhupada used the word officiating Acharya, and I like the word officiating Acharya as spoken by Srila Prabhupada. I will use that word because the Ritvik word has been demonized by the so-called fake gurus or GBC or whatever you want to call it. So that's the point.
Prabhupada, what was we should not take names, but yeah, it was demeaned by him. Yeah.
So what's your question? Your question is about the initiation process or how it should continue? Well, that's answered by Shiva.
So Prabhu, the second question also concede with that is, can we change Prabhu a spiritual master, right? So if we have made a guru several times, Prabhupada, not any offense to Prabhupada, Prabhupada has said this also, that you can change a guru. And if you think that there's a living pure devotee, pure guru living there, you can take Diksha from them. So what are in Ishan Prabhu's views on this? These 2 questions. Can we change a spiritual master, spiritual, and we can go towards another guru who's of the same sampradaya, but you can understand that he's on that pure stage, pure love stage. Yeah. And the first question was that, fire initiation specifically. Prabhupada has said this, that fire initiations are very important, and that's how you have to go towards Diksha. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Prabhu. Hare Bol.
So his question is that I think he has met another spiritual master besides Srila Prabhupada, and then he's trying to take initiation from him, but he also wants to follow Srila Prabhupada. So, I mean,
Is there any offense there? I mean, if I'm offending Prabhupada in that sense, if I'm just asking, I don't know about this, Prabhu, not read that. Yeah.
I have the answer for that. If
go ahead,
like-
Ulises Prabhu. Yes.
Okay. And there's a statement in Devi Rahasya where it speaks of accepting teachings from a book in the absence of a qualified guru. I'll post the verses in the chat, or yeah, I guess, or share the screen, I guess. Oh no, I can't share. Okay. Basically, I'll read the verses. The first one says, Lord Shiva speaking, and he says, "O Parvati, a non-initiated person in the absence of a real guru should accept the book as a guru." So that is pretty much what we're doing right now, because we're looking for a bona fide guru. So meanwhile, we take shelter of the current acharya. The next verse, Lord Shiva mentions, he says, "O Devi, however, if there exists a bona fide Vaishnava guru expert in the Tantras, endowed with all auspicious qualities and initiated through auspicious mantra, if one renounces such a supremely devoted Vaishnava guru and accepts the book as guru, then he becomes an offender to Lord Shiva." That's the quote. And so in other words, if it's not clear, I'll rephrase, is basically take shelter of the book. But if there's a Bhagavat pure devotee present and one says, "Oh, I'll just follow the book, I don't need the Bhagavat," then that is an offense. One must take shelter of the living guru if he's present.
Very good. Thank you. Very good. Thank you very much. Very good. Jai.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhus. Ishan Prabhu, Ulises, Vinayak, Mohit, Virat Prabhu for participating. We'll continue the program next week. We'll have the reading of Srila Prabhupada Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.21. Thank you, Prabhu.
Haribol.
All
Thank
glory
you.
to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
Jai.
All good.
Jai Ishan Prabhu. Jai Bhakti.